So leaving off, or at least taking up where we left off, rather. So for Hume, everything is an impression. Okay? Everything is an impression. Now what he means by that is this idea that insofar as we experience the world around us, that our impressions lead to the formation of ideas. And impressions, again, to just kind of continually use his language here, are sensations, passions, emotions. Okay? They're that which we feel. Now, how this works, and think about it for a second, right? That everything, if we think about our sense experience, if we think about our sense experience, if we think about our experience in the world, right? That ultimately what happens is that we are continuously having a variety of impressions. Okay? You currently, right now, are having an impression of my voice, the way that it sounds. Okay? You're having an impression of the way that the seat, whatever kind of seat you're sitting in, right, feels. You have a sensation of how your mouth tastes. Maybe you just ate some food. I'm drinking coffee, so I don't have the best taste in my mouth right now, right? I have an impression of this room that I'm in, even though I'm not like wildly conscious of it, but I definitely still have an impression of it. That we are continuously having impressions all of the time. And as you can see from the lecture notes here, impressions are those things which are passive. Okay? They're immediate, right? That we just kind of are experiencing them without really thinking about them. That foundationally our experience in the world is based in impressions, and from those impressions, right, we then in turn can start to form ideas. So it's only until, right, that I'm like, okay, I'm in this room, I see a couple of the things that are in this room, and I can start to form ideas of those things after I've keyed in on those things existing, or those things being part of my impression of the world. Right? Otherwise, really everything that I'm sensory experiencing, the soft humming of the fridge in the background, the way that the light is kind of fluctuating from this window, and the clouds and the sun, right? Those are all impressions, but now that I've keyed in on them, now that I've started to focus on them, then in particular, right, I've started to form ideas. And so Hume thinks that this is how, foundationally, all of our knowledge is derived. That it starts with the fundamental impression or impressions, right, of again, wanting to get his language correct here, sensations, passions, emotions. Okay? And then from that, we start to formulate an idea or ideas. Now, what's interesting here is think about emotions for a second. Okay? And this will creep back up here when we get back into his kind of take on morality. But let's say, you are doing something and you see something happen, right? And you have this immediate response, almost like I'm pointing to my gut. You can't see, but I'm pointing to my gut, where you feel something, right? You feel it, and then after that, you start to kind of make some sort of assessment. You start to form some sort of idea, and that's exactly what's happening with this kind of Humean take on knowledge, and then coincidentally, morality here in a minute. Okay? That in particular, in furthering how Hume is a die-hard empiricist and he uses impressions and ideas, this is how to categorize impressions and ideas. That impressions are immediate, right? We experience them all the time. Okay? And then we can only reflect on them after the fact, right? Where we form ideas. That through experiencing the world via my perceptive abilities, I derive knowledge of the world. I do this by first having an immediate impression, which in turn lead to the formation of ideas. Okay? And then you can see here kind of an example that I use in class sometimes is with my red water bottle, where what I'll do is, while we're kind of talking about this, I'll go over, I'll pick up my red water bottle, I'll take a drink, similarly like to the way that I'm holding my coffee cup right now, and I could just very well be giving a continuation of this lecture and just kind of take a sip real quick, right, and just kind of be holding my coffee cup here, but you're obviously not going to be keyed in on the coffee cup if I'm not talking about it. But nevertheless, for Hume, you're still having an impression of it because it's still within your line of sight. And now that I've started to focus your attention on the coffee cup, you'll start to form an idea about the coffee cup. Really interesting kind of focus on how it is our experience in the world really takes shape. Okay? And so you can see here how this water bottle example and coffee cup example translates. So now, all right. Now, let's turn to morality then. So all of this has been kind of a nice setup to where it is we're going of how Hume takes and understands morality. That in particular, sorry, what the heck? Sorry, it's funny. Sorry about that. Okay. So now, with morality here, that Hume, okay, if everything is based in the impressions, and impressions, as you saw perhaps on the front side of the sheet here, right, they're categorized as not true or false, because it seems to be a weird thing to say that, oh, I'm having, a true emotion, right, or a true impression, or a false impression. That doesn't really make any sense. It's just something that we experience. It's something that we feel. Okay? Where ideas, which are more reflective, where the mind is reflective, the mind is reflecting on what it is we've experienced, on our impressions, then yeah, that very well might be able to be true or false. Okay? And so for morality then, and what Hume says, right, for morality, is that ultimately if we think about what it is we know with regards to morality, okay, and if I were to say, well, abortion is wrong, okay, or abortion is permissible, okay, what is it that I'm saying there? What is it that I'm saying there? From a Humean perspective and a Humean understanding, is that ultimately when we make moral propositions like that, what it is we're doing is we're claiming that I feel abortion is wrong, or I feel that abortion is permissible. And what's meant by that, and why and how Hume makes this distinction, is very kind of consistent, right? This idea that ultimately, if all of our knowledge, including our moral knowledge of that which we claim to understand right, wrong, good, and bad, if all of that knowledge is derived from experience and primarily from our impressions, then ultimately what it is we are saying is that our feelings on what is right, wrong, good, and bad are just that. They are feelings. And moreover, because impressions cannot be true or false, they just merely are, then propositions such as abortion is wrong or abortion is permissible, they also can't be true or false. Moreover, and this is where skepticism comes back in, because of that, no objective moral truths can ever be known for Hume under Humean philosophy. And this is really, really fascinating to me. And I think he might be onto something, frankly. Because ultimately, when we think especially about these hot-button issues of abortion or gay marriage or climate change or whatever might be hot-button, I don't know. Ultimately, what we typically see are two sides, right? We see, the for side and the against side, or however that works. And ultimately, right, they each are claiming to be right. They are each claiming that their proposition, their moral judgment, their moral proposition is the right one. But under this Humean approach and how Hume explains this, which I think is pretty accurate perhaps, is that ultimately under this situation, and in situations such as that, ultimately what's happening is these positions are just merely kind of talking past one another, right? Because you have this side that says, I feel this way. And then this side says, no, I feel this way. And you know what? We're never going to agree. Ever. And that is something that I think is wildly fascinating. And ultimately, what is the productivity of trying to have these moral conversations when ultimately, under the Humean perspective, it's all about how we feel? It's all based in feeling. It's based in these impressions, or in Hume's language, sensations, passions, and emotions. That if I feel a particular way about a particular subject and you feel the complete opposite way about a particular thing, about a particular subject, it's very difficult for us to, separate our feelings, separate our emotions from how it is that we engage with that topic. But nevertheless, we're each claiming that we're right. And so we arrive back at this troubling position of subjectivism. And so for Hume, as you can see here, right, one of the points here is, so how then, what is the source of our moral distinctions? And moral distinctions meaning, how do we be distinct in what is right, wrong, good, and bad? That's what that means. And this is what's called moral skepticism. That for Hume, since morality is based in the impressions, because everything is based in the impressions, right, then morality can neither be true nor false. It just merely is. It's merely representational of how it is we feel. And this is what Hume claims. That what is morally right, wrong, good, and bad lies within our impressions, our feelings, our passions, and thus morality cannot be true or false. Okay? Now we can certainly form ideas because ideas stem from impressions, right? That I've formed an idea that abortion is permissible or abortion is impermissible. That's certainly the case, right? But foundationally and fundamentally, to claim any sort of objective moral knowledge, moral truth about that subject or subjects like it is irresponsible, because ultimately that can't be done. Because what's happening under the Humean perspective is that ultimately, when we make claims or moral judgments such as that, ultimately what we're doing is we're just saying, I feel this particular way. I feel that abortion is right. I feel that abortion is impermissible. I feel that gay marriage is permissible. I feel that gay marriage is impermissible. Because ultimately with morality, we arrive at this position that it's based in the passions. It's based in how we feel. And feelings, because we're subjective individuals, right, are just what they are. Okay? So we'll pause there, and then we'll move on to the third part with Hume, kind of hopefully drawing this out a little bit more.